And we're live?
Try now.
And we're live. Today is Thursday. It is 5:01 p.m.
June 24th.
Thank you.
2021.
Here's the tip. Here's my expert advice. You just have to look at the top right screen of your MacBook and just read it off. Anyways. We're not allowed to have fun anymore?
Today we're going to be making roasted red peppers. Oh, we're not allowed to have any fun, but we're going to have roasted red peppers.
We are going to have roasted red peppers.
Okay. We're going to try our best.
You the whole screen here.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay. So to start, you kind of want to have your red peppers, and put them on some kind of sheet tray.
How do you know this recipe?
My grandma is super adorable. She's like this little old Italian lady who is like the tiniest person, but like perfectly round in all the best grandma ways. And she is a tricky one to get recipes out of, because every time you ask her for a recipe, she tells you a little bit more. So I just keep calling her and being like, wait, I forgot how to do this. And then she gives you like a little bit more and a little bit more, because the worst thing that could ever happen is for someone to be like, oh, yours is as good as grandma's or better than grandma's. And then that causes craziness.
So she's actively holding back information on the recipe?
She claims that it's just her memory, because I mean, I think she's 92 now. So she claims it's her memory, but she's been doing this forever. So like, you can't get away with that anymore. But yeah, excellent. I'm gonna do 5 red peppers, and this is kind of a very simple thing to do.
So you should tilt your camera down so we can see the peppers. There we go.
Okay. So we don't put any oil or anything on it, and I apologize if this oven. Oh, can you see her? She's in jail right now because she barked at the guys who were trying to, the electrician. So if you have an oven, you put the broiler on, which is that beep that you heard. And hopefully this works. And so you just kind of, and I apologize, there's not going to be a great shot of this. You stick them in. I'm going to actually move this before it gets too hot.
Dog's like, can I eat peppers?
Yes, any food is very, very much appreciated by her. Okay. So you kind of just stick them in there, and you wait for it to heat up, because this is an electric broiler, not a gas one. The gas is really easy because you get char really right away. And you just rotate them initially until they get all dark and crispy on the outside. And then we're going to set up for...
This is so different than how I do them.
Really? Oh, this is like, she does it the simplest way. And then
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
I'll wait. No, please tell me, because I honestly would love to hear a different...
I do it on the grill.
That's a good way to do it too. The grill's not connected, and I don't trust my handiness with the gas line right now.
You're very risk averse to disasters with cooking, and I respect that. Before, when we were not live, we were discussing canning peppers, and she was like, I don't trust my grandma not to give us all botulism. And
no, I love her, and she's brilliant. And I'm sure but botulism. And I'm sure at some point she wouldn't have given us botulism, because she lived through World War II in Italy. And they had to preserve everything, but she just hasn't done it in so long that I've asked her, and she's like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, that's not great. So better to not. Okay. Also, can we talk about this Blockbuster bowl she gave me?
I actually am really jealous of that bowl right now.
It is the best bowl.
I
It's
mean,
the
like,
last
please don't melt
remnant
it
of
with, like,
Blockbuster Video.
Oh, I won't. So this is actually like one of my prized possessions, which sounds so weird, but it's the best bowl to make bread with because you just pop the lid on. It's like the old popcorn bowls.
I'm
to
really
argue with
deeply
that.
jealous of the bowl.
It's
Like,
it's crazy.
ooh, I love this part.
Yes. So then you just get your bowl ready, and we're gonna make a little paper bag dumpling whenever they're ready.
Whoa. This is like,
Have you never roasted red peppers before, Benjamin?
I've roasted red peppers many times, but I've never used a paper bag and a bowl to do so.
I haven't done it with a bowl.
What do you
I
guys
put it
use?
in the paper bag.
Well, I do it by turning on the stove and putting the red peppers on top of the stove on an open flame.
Oh,
Oh,
because
that's
you have
like
the good
grilling.
gas grill. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it on a coil too. It just doesn't work as well because it's sitting there. Like, you gotta elevate it somehow. But on a gas grill, gas flame, it's really good for roasting eggplant too.
Ooh, I'm gonna do that because at our apartment in our kitchen, we actually we're really lucky. They put in like a gas grill before we moved in, so I'm gonna do that. That sounds
And
much
I'm
easier.
totally with Shailesh about roasting vegetables with a butane torch. I do that as well. And
I don't trust myself with a butane torch. Have you seen what
I
happens with
would
basic
trust
knives?
you. I would trust you with a butane torch, Kate.
I actually might be better with that than a knife.
I
I
learned
was
about
thinking,
butane torches for cooking. They're great for when you sous vide meat. You take the meat, you cook it to the right temperature in the sous vide, and then you take it out and you take a blowtorch and you just do the outside of it, and it's gorgeous.
Ooh. See,
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I've never used one, but I'm really curious to try.
It's really fun.
It sounds
Genevieve,
like
I'm gonna give you one of our. We have like two. It's a long story, but not of the sous vides, which are like $1 million. But like a few years later, someone invented like these sous vide wands. Well, they're not $1 million. You're like those huge sous vide baths like take up half of your New York City
expensive.
apartment.
Yeah,
and they're like $500.
I just use a little sous vide.
Those are the wands. But before they had the wands, Ben, they used
$150
to.
and you put them in a pot. It's great.
I just was saying that. I have one, and I'll give it an extra one, and I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Genevieve. And it is like it's like a weird mix of like a crock pot type thing. Like you just like leave it for like a long period of time and like let something cook, and it's like amazing and kind of really fun to play around with.
You can use like less fat, right? And there's like something that it gives a lot more flavor to the dish.
Like it's all vacuum sealed and then cooked at like a very low temperature in a bath of water, so that like the ligate, like the things that make the meat tough, all of the like the ligate, like the proteins and everything that make the meat tough. Is it collagen?
I think that's the.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It's sous vides are great.
It sounds delicious.
And so anyways, that breaks down like, and then they get super tender, and then, but it's all cooked at like, I don't know, like 115 degrees or something. And so then you do what Ben's talking about, and at the end you like you kind of just like cook the outside so that the outside is just charred and the inside is like this perfect temperature, and it's like really nice. What was I gonna say? Wait, how long till the peppers are ready? Are we just waiting?
So we're waiting. They're starting to smell, which is good because when you get that smell, you can kind of tell, but they're not charring yet. And I have
them on broil.
I have them on broil, but this is the first time I've done this oven, so hopefully. Normally, I picked it also because it's kind of a quick thing. I'm going to be running away from the sun for like the next 10 minutes, and then it should be fine.
There'll be a big stripe across your face as the. It's great.
Yeah. I saw someone notice the fridge. So I think this is so funny, but like I've grown up with like ridiculously large fridges for my entire life because my grandpa used to design commercial kitchens. And so like all the equipment and like all of our houses was like stainless steel, huge commercial kitchens. And this one actually is not. because the commercial one we had in here, my dad said was too loud. It was super loud. I didn't even notice it until it got taken out.
I just want to say that I think that I'm very curious whether you're going to do roasted red peppers, like what your finishing ingredient. Don't tell me, but like what your finishing is, like whether it's vinegar or lemon juice. Neither. Okay, don't tell me. It'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise.
So I do want to say that watching.
Oh, good. Yes.
Oh, okay. They're done.
We're starting to get a char. They're not done, but we're starting. I'm sorry, this took a while. Okay.
I thought you were gonna do something really amazing when you went down with and put the peppers in the oven. I thought you were gonna come back up with the peppers like Rachel Ray or something and be like, and here they are.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought about it because I was afraid it wouldn't work.
I mean, I bought a bunch of clams and oysters yesterday and paid all this money for them because I was afraid that I wasn't going to get any clams and oysters when I went clamming and oystering. Like, not that that's ever happened to me before, but I was worried. Yeah.
No, I get that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Scott, I just want to take this opportunity to make fun of our other co-host, Scott.
He's here.
Oh, he's here? Let's bring him in so we can make fun of him in person.
He wants to be brought in, but I would like.
I don't think it's really up to him.
Make fun of him.
I mean, it's always. He's not. He's actually not here. He's away from the screen right now, which makes it a very good time to make fun of him because he can't respond. Scott has forgotten about cheese night, and you all will remember that we had Curds night on Monday.
He didn't forget about cheese night. It's just he's so used to thinking of it as our thing, Ben. Like me and Scott. Like it's just been like
for so many years. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not used to sharing it, and so there wasn't this performative aspect to it.
Yeah. That's bullshit. He totally forgot that he was supposed to bring a cheesemaker for tomorrow.
I occasionally feel sorry for Scott and Genevieve having been roped into our shenanigans.
Don't. I'm so delighted to be here.
I just don't want to razz on anybody.
I think part of being a new co-host on the show is going through the hazing rituals. And I think we've been pretty nice to Genevieve so far. We haven't made any jokes
Genevieve,
at her
we haven't even made you
expense.
put on a dog shirt.
I know.
Oh, I gotta order dog shirts. I'm gonna order dog shirts for Scott and Genevieve.
I wasn't gonna say anything because I didn't want to provoke it.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll get you the uniform one, and then you can branch out from there on your own if you want. But I think it's the.
No,
it's the smiling golden retriever or the yellow lab. Which is it?
I think it's the one with the tongue, whichever one has the tongue.
Yeah, that's the smiling golden retriever.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we're gonna order 2 of them.
How do you feel about like living your whole life, having done all of the things that you've done and created all of the work that you've created, Ben, and now you are known as the dog shirt guy?
It all comes down to dog shirts. You know, I'm going to share. Thank you, Paula. This is a good idea. I'm going to share the link for the smiling golden retriever dog shirt. So that all in lieu of fun people, and there are lots of other dog shirts. I don't want to, like, this is the one where when we do matching dog shirt day, we do smiling golden retriever dog shirt. Yes, and Kate?
Every time I went to go order one for Scott and for Genevieve like yesterday, and it keeps recommending me the corn cob t-shirt.
I know.
It's just like a giant makes you look like a giant corn cob. I'm like, I definitely don't want that. There's nothing adorable about a giant corn cob.
I wonder how many butter jokes people would make when you wore it out. Like,
oh my God, it would be relentless. like want to like. What if there were some normcore kit? What if that became like the new normcore? Was like dog shirts and giant vegetable, like 3D vegetables printed on. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm coming to New York in a few next week sometime.
I'm going back to New York next week sometime.
I know, I was gonna be in New York this week, but then you told me no, I'm gonna be away, so
Okay. I know, but then aren't you glad I told you so that you can just wander around
very
the city
glad.
being like, where's Kate?
And so I'm gonna bring dog shirts for everybody.
It's gonna be a dog party.
Yeah. What's your dog's name, Genevieve?
Okay, so this is Loki. Not named for the Marvel comic series. She was named for the Norse god of mischief. But because of Marvel, everyone's like, wow, you must really love, like, Marvel. And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, she's 11.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
I like Loki. I think Loki is a great god.
I always thought that, and I read this, this is not an original thought, but I liked this and I thought it was poignant. Someone said that Loki was the reflection of man for the things they had to do but didn't like about themselves, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
There was, I think Ada said something about this, about when she was talking about the Norse gods and how, like, broken they all are. And, like, and, you know, Odin is missing his eye, and, like, you know, all of Loki's teeth are replaced with gold or whatever, and, like, they're all, you know, and, like, all of these scars, and I don't know, I think that's, like, I kind of love that. I think it's awesome. Have you read Neil Gaiman's American Gods?
I have, yes.
You have?
No.
It's really good.
I like
love
American.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah.
American Gods is a very good
super
book.
great.
As
It's
is
like a
Anansi Boys.
What?
Anansi
Nazi
Boys.
Boys?
Anansi Boys, also by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Anansi Boys. I thought you were saying Nazi Boys by Neil Gaiman.
No Nazi
And I was
Boys
like,
by me.
No, don't.
So the dog shirts are now ordered.
Good.
And
The
April,
peppers?
no, I missed your dog shirt question.
Woo, those look good, Genevieve.
Those look beautiful. The answer to the dog shirt question is the normal size t-shirt I wear is a large, and I wear a large dog shirt t-shirt. And so they reasonably approximate normal sizing for me, but I can't promise that they will for everybody else.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to see.
All right, I still don't understand what the paper bag has to do with it.
Oh, you put them in the paper bag.
So it
Why?
Steams them.
helps to steam them and loosen up the skins so that you can peel them. And they only have to sit for like 5 to 7 minutes. But I like to do like a little paper bag dumpling. And
Cool.
then,
So cute.
So then, where do you put it in the bowl?
and I'm trying to speed up the process, so I'll use my handy dandy Blockbuster bowl.
So this is just using the heat from the oven, from like these heated up. Now they're steaming into the bag in the bowl. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes.
I also put them in a paper bag.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to move this
Yeah,
so I don't.
this is going to shock you to hear this, Ben, but I forgot that there was I forgot that I often do this, decide to do it at scale. And I will get an entire laundry basket of seconds, red peppers, and then roast all of them and make a huge production out of it and then can them. I turn up the heat too high and often burn half the peppers. So I'm already impressed by Genevieve's patience and not burning things.
It's only because I've burnt myself so many times. I'm okay. Knock wood. Not so many knife cuts, but a lot of burns. Lots of burns. Okay. So I also like to just get this done while we have a little downtime. I'm going to lower this. Okay. Can you see what I'm looking? All right. So I just have a little jar here. But a bowl. And as I said, we don't can things in my family, and we're just kind of smashing and peeling the garlic.
Great.
Yeah, very simple. And I think I'm going to do 3. Apologies for the slams.
No, that's like, I was thinking that I should do, like, there should be like a Gallagher themed cooking show where you don't use any knives and you just smash shit.
That would be fun.
Yes?
It's
right?
extremely therapeutic. Okay. So then I am going to just put a little bit in here to start. We just put some extra virgin olive oil. And I'm only going to cover the garlic right now. Just to get that starting to infuse.
This is making me hungry.
Ooh, and my belly is turning on the oven again. No. Bad stomach. Okay. So I've been reading about Britney Spears all day.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have never once. I couldn't identify a Britney Spears song if you hit me over the head with it. But I am fascinated by this story. No, I couldn't.
Literally, one of the songs is called "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." Literally hits you over the head. You would.
And another one is "I'm a Slave for You," which is a little too on the nose.
Yeah, this is getting into real 13th Amendment territory. Like, you know, she said she wants to have more kids, and she can't make a doctor's appointment to get her IUD
have her IUD removed.
Like, that is some serious toxic shit.
Very. Also another song, as Paula said. Yep.
What? Take
Toxic.
your IUD out by yourself.
I'm Toxic's another Britney song.
So I've never.
I thought it was. Yeah.
I have heard of Britney Spears, which is, you know, when I first read the name for a long time, I thought Beyonce was pronounced Bay once. So I'm not that delusional with respect to Britney Spears, but
I'm gonna remind you of Bay once every time I ever haven't read the news before.
I am just totally like. There's a limited amount of space in my brain, and I'm not spending it on pop culture. It's not a hostile gesture. It's just like not how I spend my time.
And when I decide not to spend it on Steve Bannon, I get so much shit.
KK, you are totally allowed to make fun of me about this. This is why I mention this, so that you have the opportunity to make fun of me, just like I make fun of you about Steve Bannon. I'm totally down with that.
Okay.
So,
I am totally obsessed with the Britney Spears story because it is like fucking slavery.
It's
okay, so wait, Genevieve, how many years younger than are you?
I'm 34. I'm not that.
Oh, you're not that much younger than me at all. Wow. Okay, I thought we were like further apart. That's a
but now Genevieve is frozen.
Wait, no, Genevieve is frozen.
Now she's unfrozen.
Wait, am I back?
Oh yeah, now you're.
You're back.
Yep.
Okay. No, I'm 34, so I'm not. I'm like.
We have the same experience of, like, the NSYNC. What was the other one?
Backstreet Boy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, like
there was
all at the
two.
same time. Yes.
Okay, so I have a question. Like, she had some kind of mental health episode a few years ago, number of
Not a
years
few
ago.
years ago.
No,
Like
no,
a
no, like
decade ago.
in 2008.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So a number of years ago, and this this
Wow.
conservatorship gets slapped on her. Why has she not challenged it until now?
She has. She's challenged it before. She has challenged it before. The mental health breakdown was like a couple of things, if I remember correctly, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about the order of events. But she was like very, very young, child star, becomes pop star, massive, massive, massive amounts of fame, dates Justin Timberlake. This makes her even more massively, massively, massively famous. Becomes pregnant at like I think in her like early 20s with like this kind of seedy like
Kevin Federline.
Kevin Federline,
Yeah.
dancer who she marries. He cheats on her, or he already had another kid and like an ex-wife, and he cheats on her and does all this stuff. Anyways, she has 2 kids, and she kind of like seems to be losing her mind. And I think the peak of this, as people have referenced in the chat, is when she is pictured shaving her own head at a hair salon with a pair of clippers and just kind of like gleefully like shaving her head like a crazy person.
I'm sorry. Lots of people shave their heads, including one Kate Klonick, without losing their autonomy over their basic lives.
Right.
Yeah, well, people would try to take my autonomy away if I was worth like $300 million and I shaved my head. Let me just tell you.
And the same night, so this is, I think, the slight differentiating factor in the shaved head episode. So the same night, she attacks a paparazzi car with an umbrella. And then she gets that 5150 or whatever the California mandatory hold is. I think she got 2 of them in quick succession. And so then to rehab her image, they did this whole like apology tour. And that's when I think they started to petition for the conservatorship.
Okay, but
it's wrong.
let's assume
she had a fallout with her sister, who is also trying to make it and become like a singer. Her mom and dad divorced in the middle of this. Then were divorced slightly earlier, but they were like warring. And then like none of this is correct. I'm just telling you like the full version of events. And also
fine. I'm just saying, like, lots of people did wacky shit in 2008, 2009 without having their basic reproductive freedoms encumbered in 2021.
No offense, I almost think that's not even the worst part of this. Like, I think that just like the money and the property and the lack of like legal rights over any of her artistry.
I mean, she has no legal rights over anything. It's outrageous. And it makes me think that there's probably a whole seedy industry of these conservatorships that I've gone through a lot of years being a legal commentator without really being aware of.
It's a part of probate, right? Like it's a part of probate law.
Yeah, but I've never seen a case before of somebody who was so obviously competent. She's capable of running, of doing shows. She's capable of all kinds of things that require higher functioning. And her dad runs her affairs against her will. It's outrageous.
It kind of feels like she's been stuck in her house for the last 10 years, basically having everyone like spoon feed her Jell-O and and then feed her kids Jell-O and then like tell her she is like horribly damaged and unable to like do anything and gaslighting her. And then so here's what I'm confused about, Genevieve. Was there not an entire article in a documentary about this before the New York Times just got these documents? Apparently, like this happened a year ago, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's from what I read today, because I went down an internet rabbit hole, as one does. It has been bubbling for a while, and I watched that documentary, and it was really kind of scary because right when the conservatorship started, she hired a lawyer to challenge it to get it dismissed. But because she was under the conservatorship, her conservators told her that that lawyer was, or they fired the lawyer because she couldn't hire him. So it was like this whole bizarre dynamic, which seemed so fiscally motivated. And in that documentary, she seems cogent. She seems to be fairly self-aware. I mean, and one thing that I thought was really interesting is that, like, because I think it's governed by California law, her conservatorship.
Yeah, it's a conservatorship under California law.
Yeah, and California, they're saying that they're starting to use this as like a first, a go-to thing instead of a last resort issue with a lot of the homeless population. So it's creating all these civil liberty challenges. And I mean, it's insanity because, like, how does, like, she's become property, like a commodity that they're controlling, which is bizarre.
Right, and she's like unlike a homeless person. So the limiting and look, if this is happening to a lot of homeless people, that's appalling, and we need to look into that. Unlike a lot of homeless people, this is a woman who's worth a shitload of money, and so the capacity for homeless people for serious exploitation is actually limited by how financially valuable they are not. But if you keep a homeless person basically in a cage, that is a horrible thing, but you don't have that much financial incentive to do it. You have a lot of financial incentive to keep Britney Spears in a cave and in a cage. And I think there's I was shocked by that story.
Is this the Framing Britney Spears documentary? Is that the one? I feel like it wasn't.
No, I think there's multiple ones. I don't think that's it. There was like one that was done particularly by a bunch of her fans that was like based on the Free Britney movement or something.
Yeah.
Well, sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tweet
it's really
hashtag
nuts.
Free Britney right now.
It's insanity.
Yeah. Definitely tweeting Free Britney.
I'm glad that you're so not interested in pop culture normally, Ben, but I love this. Also, I'll make a pitch.
I'm not into pop culture, but I'm really not into forced labor.
I mean, that's like the least. That's like the least part of this is the forced labor part. I feel like. I mean, that's bad, but like, I don't know.
The bodily autonomy freaks me out.
Yeah, the bodily autonomy freaks me out. Like, yeah.
And then I always wonder, like, if it was a man, would they be able to do it? Because even the way the judge speaks about it in one of the articles today, they were appealing because her father stepped down for health reasons from this conservatorship. And I think the lady's name is Jody Montgomery, who's now acting as the conservator, even though her father's still the conservator per the courts. And the judge's statement to this woman said, it still sounded like they intended to keep the conservatorship. And so, I mean, I know that there are legal standards, but it just seemed very conciliatory and deferential to the conservators versus the person under the conservatorship.
Yeah, and I also want to know, honestly, where the money is going, right?
Yeah.
So if the conservators have a fiduciary obligation to use the money in her interests, somebody should audit the shit out of that and figure out where that money is actually going.
I think that they have to do annual disclosures, if I'm remembering correctly from the article.
Yeah, and Donald Trump had to do annual disclosures too. And
didn't work out.
I would like an independent audit. We got one for Maricopa County elections. I think we can get one for poor Britney Spears.
I don't know. It's super sad. I kind of feel like she's just like, I don't know.
But all of this brings us back to the Peppers.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So you see my discarded, my shirt's over here and my dog's over there. Okay, yeah, they actually are. So the whole point is to steam them so you can just peel them like this. Still a little hot, but
this is so satisfying.
It is. If you're ever stressed, it's such a lovely activity.
It is. Totally agree.
And then I use the knife sometimes to get the ones that don't want to come right away.
Now, when you use the knife, do you use a shucking knife for oysters or for clams?
Go fuck yourself, Ben.
Kate, I'm going to defer to you.
Well, what you have there is your general paring knife, Ben. We call that.
Okay, this one's being a little stubborn. Okay.
I'm getting like hungry, like watching you make these.
They're so yummy, and like I love to have them on like a cracker with like ricotta cheese, and I just think that's like the best snack.
Ricotta cheese, that sounds amazing.
Now, when you use the ricotta cheese, do you make your own curds for the ricotta, or do you?
Oh hell no, I'm not at that level. I do store bought, so I don't botulize anyone. Okay. So normally I'd be a little more OCD about this, but we are getting a little late, so I'm gonna just show the next step. So then you use your paring knife. You remove the top. Whew, hot. And then I like to kind of cut it like you would a squid. Right?
How many times have you cut a squid?
The least helpful directions that I've ever gotten.
Wait, Genevieve, how many do you cut squids frequently?
No, I've only ever tried it once, and it was a slippery little devil.
Well, like these.
Yes.
This isn't many seeds in it.
No, this one was actually easy. Then you just kind of scrape those out. Sometimes if it's spicy and you want to keep it a little spicy, you leave those in, and then just.
Do bell pepper seeds have spice?
No, but you can do this with those hot ones too.
Oh yeah.
And so then they just go in the jar or the bowl, whatever you're using.
This is really attractive. I mean, like.
I'm like very hungry for red
Yeah,
peppers
no.
now.
I'm just like the quality of this. The images here are really starting to get to me.
I hope I'm not super pixelated because sometimes the.
No, you're not actually.
Okay.
It was
No,
for a second, and now it's like so clear, and I feel like it's also just like. So okay.
And so then what you also do is my grandma puts in a little bit of oregano.
Oh man, I'm hungry.
And then she puts in some salt. A healthy amount of salt, she'd say. And then she just would cover, I'm going to keep working on this, but we don't have to have the camera on it the whole time. And then she just would cover the peppers with oil and let them sit while they cool and continue to cool. And the garlic will infuse them. And after she says an hour, they're ready to go.
So you don't use any acid?
No acid. See, I told you.
There was a surprise.
And how do you serve them?
Well, my brothers love when she makes them and makes chicken cutlets with them. And so they'll just put these on chicken cutlets or on sandwiches or on ricotta cheese, pretty much anywhere you want.
We do
Wow.
open-faced sandwiches in the oven with baguette sliced sandwich and into pieces, and then we put the peppers on below, and then I put oregano on in between, and then I put provolone slices on top.
That sounds delicious.
And then I put it under the broiler. But we dip, so Genevieve, we do this thing where we dip the slices in either lemon juice or we just dip them. We kind of rinse off the seeds in vinegar in white vinegar, and then we put them in the thing, and it just adds this
that
little snappiness of kind
sounds
of
delicious.
tartness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this also seems delicious, and my mouth is literally watering, and I have this delicious drink right here, and now I don't want it at all. I want a jar of I want a jar of red peppers.
If I could preserve them, I'd send them to both of you, but I can't.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start bringing in people for questions, and the rule is whatever your question's about, you have to figure out how to relate it to roasted red peppers. Because, we've got a theme here, people, and some of these questions are off topic, which is fine. But we gotta like bring them to the theme. So your job as the questioner coming in is, figure out how this is related to roasted red peppers. We will address the question. Paula, you jumped the queue.
I did not do it on purpose.
No. It's just one of those things. You were the last person I invited on, but the first to show up. It happens. What is your question, and how does it relate to roasted red peppers?
It's going to be a very big stretch, but in the conversation with Kate, you mentioned that the things that you do or do not write about implies what you find to be important, and as like a student, it's something that I come across a lot in political science journals is rationalizing like behavior, like political behavior. And it's like, I don't know if it's a conscious choice of saying this is rational choice theory, but a lot of it goes, well, this is going to get this person reelected, so it's considered rational behavior. And I think you see the same thing happen on like cable news where people say, well, this person is acting this way because it's what their base wants or it's what's going to get them reelected. And I think like when I hear that, I think it rationalizes a lot of crazy behavior because maybe that person is trying to please their base. But when you think about it in like regular day-to-day behavior, it makes no sense. And someone explained it on Twitter really well. I wish I could give them credit. But like what happened to AOC when, one of her colleagues was like chasing her down the hall. Like if you think of that outside of, being a government official, if that happened to you at your retail store, that person would be fired, right? So if you're working in Congress and your colleague wants to, I don't know, try and throw roasted red peppers at you.
Good, well done. A model for you all.
Yes. I'm impressed.
That would never happen. And I think we rationalize because say it's like what their base wants, or this is just what it's like being an elected official who, has to, appear in front of, audiences or whatever it may be. I don't know if you agree with that or what your thoughts on it are. I think it is going down, actually. I think with the Trump era, people saw like how bad it was to sometimes excuse behavior that wasn't okay just because some people might have liked it. But I do still think it's happening, whether it's consciously or not.
All right. So, Genevieve, do you have thoughts on pelting your colleagues with roasted red peppers and whether that's normal?
I think it's a huge norm violation, and I'm very much against it. But it's definitely
also a real waste of roasted red peppers.
Yeah, you can eat them and share them and make friends. Why would you do anything else?
So, on a less serious note, I think it is the case that, so first of all, it is totally inevitable that journalists are deciding what's important by deciding what to cover. And any journalist who tells you they're not doing that is delusional unless they're lying. Of course they're doing that. That's what editorial judgment is. Every day we're deciding what not to include, what to focus on. Now, there are certain conventions in the way we do that were, until very recently, not contentious at all. For example, if the president says something, it is important. Because he's the fucking president, right? And so then you have a president who's batshit crazy and who says things that are bizarrely unimportant.
That would never happen, Ben.
Right.
People know better.
And that's that's a tricky problem that we haven't confronted before as a press. And I think Trump made a lot of people think about that question, including, most importantly, Twitter. And Twitter spent a lot of time taking the position that, and it's, by the way, quite a reasonable position, I think, that, hey, if the president says it, it's inherently newsworthy and it's more important than our normal rules that we make available what the president said. And then January 6th happens and Twitter's like, fuck that. You know, like, it turns out there are some standards. Now, I want to say I am pretty sympathetic to Twitter's position in this. More sympathetic than most people are. Because I think there is no good answer to this. Whatever their answer is,
right.
It's just kind of creating a new, one might
Can I
say,
be
norm.
honest though? Like, you're very blunt, right? Like, you would be willing to say very clearly your opinions. And I think part of the problem is, like, even if you take basic, not editorial reporting, like maybe when I get like my New York Times breaking news, there has to be some, I think there's an expectation of why something is happening. And I think like journalists hesitate to, like, they will not say, like you said, that it's just like what's happening is just like there's no explanation except like this person has a personality. You can't say that. I don't think that, because to some people that's editorializing. To you or to like most people, like you said, after January 6th, it's become a basic fact that this isn't normal everyday behavior.
Right. So I want to. This was a long-winded way on my part of saying, look, some of this is a matter of convention. If the president says it, it's important. Some of it is not a matter of convention. It's a matter of judgment. You know, is it objectively important how Genevieve DellaFera cooks roasted red peppers? Most of the press says no, which is why there have not been a lot of stories on this subject. Now, In Lieu of Fun makes a different editorial judgment about this. We have said this is important that people should know. And partly because we have our sense of importance is guided by our sense of mischief and fun. And this is Munch 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 week. And people just need to be, you know, the New York Times is doing exactly the same thing. They just have different rhetoric for it, you know. But when they say, you know, when they invest as much as they invest in certain areas and leave certain areas uncovered, they're making editorial judgments about what's important. And Kate Conger was very candid about that. A lot of journalists are not candid about that. They describe there's like some objective news value or newsworthiness. And I think that's just a lot of bullshit. Actually,
newsworthiness is not an objective quality.
It
is not an objective quality. And courts, by the way, in the First Amendment, and you'll learn this when you're at Michigan next year. Congratulations again. That there is a sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way, Ben. But
no, go ahead.
No, it's just complete. And like, what's really interesting is that courts are not only like are equally, I would say, opaque about relying on newsworthiness as some type of objective, believing or cast it as an objective judgment. That, for example, and kind of circularly define it by newsworthiness as things that news organizations decide is worth publishing, but then let us decide which types of news organizations are the ones that are actually, like, if you're talking about Bat Boy and like the National Enquirer, that's not newsworthy. If you're talking about it in the New York Times, then something must have happened. And all of this is complete bullshit. Like, this is the entire problem with all speech regulation or all kinds of like newsworthy judgments, is that, like, of course you're constantly, I think Quinta said this once when she was on, and I actually really love this. She was just like, none of these things are like, they're like it's just all about who you're talking to.
I can just say
something is important.
The wildest thing that I saw, like when I signed up for the New York Times, breaking news, feature in my email, which I think says a lot about like my political standpoint. I expected breaking news. And one of the wildest things I saw was when the New York Times reporters got a Pulitzer Prize. I got a breaking news email. And I was like, that is not breaking news.
Can I just say, there's I think it's in the movie Broadcast News. It's one of the great commentaries on journalism of all time. One character turns to another and says, "Never forget we're the story." And, that is, I was at the Washington Post for 9 years. There was no bigger news story than when the Washington Post won Pulitzers. And there was no smaller news story than the Pulitzers when we got shut out of them. And, why is it that journalists care so much more about subpoenas to journalists for records, for phone records, than they do about subpoenas to other categories of individuals? There is a very deep self-involvement in the whole thing.
Can I say something worse? Oh, go ahead, Genevieve. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, it kind of reminds me of lawyers, because we're self-regulating as well. And like, you'll never get someone to convict on like a malpractice thing that like it is because they lost a case. And like, so it reminds me a little bit of that. But also, I mean,
except that lawyers don't control the dialogue the way journalists do. And journalists, I forget who said never pick a fight with people who buy ink by the barrel. But it's a
like
good
during the Hearst Wars and like
it's a good line. And journalists are infinitely self-absorbed, and they control the means by which people read shit.
I will say this one thing that I don't think I've ever said this publicly, actually. One of the reasons that I fell out of love with journalism, and I still think it has a certain amount of use, but like, was when I was working and watching from a smaller vantage point, like Talking Points Memo, and other people, like back in the day, like at that point, my friend, like Matt Iglesias and Ezra Klein and like Spencer Ackerman and Brian Beutler and like all of these people who like run a lot of these political things now. And I saw that they were just 20-something dudes that had gotten kind of like some type of microphone, and there was like outright kind of collusion between them, like about like what the stories were going to be and like how they were going to share and spread links and like talking about it openly. And like I don't think it was just them. I want to be totally clear. That was just the ones that I saw because I was friends with them, and I think that's totally fine. But it's not like some type of meritocracy in which the best stories are making their way to the top of the news cycle and then getting featured on Maddow or Chris Hayes or like whatever else. There are kind of certain political choices that people are making and kind of cronyism within the industry, and it happens. And like, I gotta say, like, didn't love it. Like, I just, like, it wasn't like, a lot of people can do it for, like, a long time. It just wasn't my shtick. It, like, made me super fall out of love with, and then, like, this happens all the time with, like, lawyers, as Genevieve, like, but, like, yeah. Sorry.
Can I ask a quick question, a follow-up question to that before, I'm sorry, Christopher. We're
Alice and Christopher, don't worry about it.
Hi, Chris. So the quick question was, do you think somewhat this is circumvented by, or checked, or kept in any kind of control by social media? Because I'm thinking of Ronan Farrow and the Harvey Weinstein investigation, and they couldn't get a major publisher to really carry that for a long time until I think The Atlantic did it, right? Or was it? No, it was the New Yorker. Yeah.
New Yorker.
Yeah. So
what do you think, Ben?
I don't know.
So, look,
I think that there was a group of people who really took advantage of social media and the savviness of knowing how to use social media, and like rose up at a point in like that they walked a line. But that's kind of to a certain point my generation. But I think that it's not
it's much harder to control anything in information-wise in the era of social media, and the degree to which Ronan Farrow was able to embarrass NBC is an example of that. I think the ability of powerful people to escape scrutiny from journalists by wielding power is nothing new. And, you know, Harvey Weinstein is a good example of that in the modern era, but there's lots of examples of that in the non-modern era.
Okay.
Christopher Argyris.
All right. So the Supreme Court rules that unanimously that college athletes are entitled to roasted red peppers and
Well done.
and laptops and other things related to academic benefits as part of them being NCAA athletes, but that they can't go out and sell images of them and with the red peppers and benefit from the video games that they've appear with red peppers. So I'm wondering, is there anything more to Justice Kavanaugh's solo concurrence besides just inviting more challenges? Because it seems like the athletes themselves did not ask the court to say should we get paid, but they were only elevating the arguments from the appellate courts about, or from the trial court about these educational benefits. So what's to make of? I mean, we're sort of making a big deal about his concurrence, but is there any sort of case law or stare decisis? What can people do with this concurrence, or is it sort of just waiting for future challenges on the whole idea of athlete compensation?
So have either of you guys looked at this case carefully?
Yeah.
Not carefully, cursory.
No, I looked at it, and I actually was super surprised, but also very happy with the outcome. The NCAA is like this weird cartel of that is strangely manipulated, and I am no great lover of Kavanaugh, but I thought that his concurrence was absolutely kind of moving and talking about how there is no other industry in which we restrict abilities to pay individuals that perform in that industry, so that we are in some way benefiting them for the level of paternalism is disgusting and obviously exploitive. I don't know, John Shea, my John, was good libertarian that he was apoplectically happy about this decision, and just was this is a huge win, this is crazy, we just ruin these kids' lives, and we just restrict them from we restrict them in these ways. And I mean, people forget that there are a lot of other types of effects that are not to high profile players about NCAA restrictions that are just absolutely insane and draconian. And I mean, I remember, so he has a number of stories about the cross country ski team at Dartmouth, which was not a very good ski team, being able to accept gifts, or use a van that was or stay overnight at different places because they couldn't get it paid for, or had to be paid for by outside sources, or whatever else. It was just it's insane. And so I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting how this fits into Title VII ultimately, and women's sports, and how people allocate money for those types of things. But I mean, generally, I thought this was one of the better decisions coming out of the court right now.
Genevieve, do you have thoughts?
He went off in his concurrence. I haven't read the court's opinion yet, but I read a little bit of the concurrence, and I've gone very nerdy, and I've really enjoyed listening to the oral arguments on Oye. So I was listening to them actually earlier, and you can just tell by the question how troubled the questions that the court is asking. They're so troubled by the dynamic, and I've thought that that was well represented in his concurrence, actually.
So I want to make a legal realist point here. Um, you know, people on the left often say that the backgrounds of the justices matter,
Yeah.
and who people have empathy with, and who, you know, where their outrage meter goes. Brett is a sports fan. He is a very serious sports fan. He plays basketball, at least he used to, very regularly. He's a, you know, season tickets holder for the Nats, as emerged under somewhat unflattering circumstances during his confirmation. He's very serious about sports, and I think that actually gives him a certain empathy for and certain ability to adopt the point of view of the athlete as opposed to the faceless cartel that maybe in other business circumstances, you know, conservatives have trouble with the worker point of view, right? But this is an area where I think you really did see his ability to empathize, and to say, wait a minute, this just isn't right, dovetailing with John Shea like libertarianism, which he definitely also has, and I think the result is a opinion that is, I think, quite right, by the way,
Yeah.
and also a you know, reflects some of his actual capacity for moral indignation.
It also came through in the questions he had on the Manahoy case with the high school for free speech case. Yeah.
Yeah, he's, you know, like I have known Brett for 20 plus years, and as viewers of this of this show probably know, I'm the only one of his friends who came out against him after Christine Blasey Ford came forward. We have not spoken since. He is not a person who is fairly depicted by the confirmation process that he went through. I say this as somebody who opposed him, and I was appalled by some of the things that I learned about him, and I believe her allegations. He is a person who is among other things a careful mind and a diverse mind, and he's capable of looking at a situation like this and coming to it quite fresh. And so I'm not surprised by this at all, and I think, you know, he will continue to be a very conservative justice who will occasionally surprise people with moral passion for things that they don't expect him to have moral passion for.
That's a good way of putting it.
Daniel, you get the last word today, notwithstanding your blending in with your native habitat, and I hope you are going to link your question appropriately to roasted red peppers.
So all this cooking of red peppers has prevented me from keeping up with the Britney Spears case. So I apologize if these red peppers have blinded me in ignorance. But where's the criminal exposure in this case, if there is any? It sounds like following the money is one possible source of criminal exposure, but given how morally repugnant it seems that there should be greater charges that could possibly be brought, but maybe that's a misunderstanding.
False imprisonment or kidnapping are the only things that kind of like strike me. If there
or
has
fraud,
been, like
well, you could
fraud,
imagine
obviously.
if there's you could imagine if there's a like if the financial conflicts of interest are really vile and there were misrepresentations somehow to the court over time. But I have no reason to believe that, by the way. Genevieve, you've been following it obsessively. Do you think we're in criminal territory, or is this just a?
I don't think it would be, unless there was a. Kate, please.
Fraud, grand theft. I mean, like, literally, I mean, fraud, you could have grand theft. There could be kidnapping or false imprisonment charges. You could have, I don't know, like, what's happened. There could be theft, trespassing. I mean, I'm just trying to kind of, like, think of, like, off the top of my head, like, things that you could charge, like, people with from a criminal capacity. I mean, conversion, but that's, like, a civil claim. And so, like, I don't know. But, like, all of this is kind of, I think that there's, I mean, I don't think that the way this is going to end up is going to be in criminal court. That might be the only way that it's going to end up in criminal court. First of all, I don't know the statute of limitations on any of those things in New York State, or it's New York State, in California. So I don't know what would, you know, be required. Second of all, you'd have to prove that, like, it seems like, well, let's say that, like, the only way that would happen is that there was a huge, come to Jesus moment about all of the things that have happened against Britney Spears, such that it really strikes people as, like, demonstratively unfair, such that, like, the California DA decides, like, the LA DA, like, decides to do something. And that just doesn't seem like, that seems like a public pressure and, like, a weight of evidence type of thing, but they're not going to, like, I don't think this is going to start out by in any ways, like, from, like, a criminal investigation standpoint, right? Like, this is all going to be civil.
Right? The question before the court, I don't think that, like, I haven't followed it closely enough to have an opinion about this, but I haven't seen in the stories any evidence of criminal conduct by anybody. It sounds like people asked the court for a conservatorship. They granted one. They exercised it. And now she's challenging it. She should be, I think, granted relief from it. And then if she wants to sue somebody, that would be the initial thing. I don't know, unless there's some gross misconduct that we're not aware of. This is all done by the order of the court, you know, which is, like, part of what makes it so upsetting.
Yeah.
It's really rare, by the way. This is, like, one of the things, like, there's a few things, like a court determination of insanity, a court determination of conservatorship, these types of incapacitation, like a power of attorney, like, those are really serious, like, power of attorney maybe being the least serious and most de rigueur one, which is, like, done by contract, but they're all incredibly serious proxy determinations that a court decides to assign to other people, and a determination of, like, the unfitness of individuals. And there's like a couple great, I should find some of them, but there's a couple great stories about people who have been determined to be insane by courts and then cannot get out of their own Kafka-esque nightmare of, like, how do you prove sanity again, or that you've recovered, or that there is some type of, like, there's no way of doing it. Like, a crazy person is, like, always crazy, so their judgment's always going to be completely, like, discounted. And yeah, so anyways, I think that's kind of an interesting part of this, but we will leave it there.
We are gonna leave it there, but we need to see
the peppers.
The peppers.
Oh my god, it looks so good. You nailed it.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, your family is going to be not mad at you for taking over the kitchen.
So tomorrow
I have a little cleanup to do first.
Yes.
So Genevieve is going to clean her kitchen. We are going to wrap up. And tomorrow is going to be cheese night, notwithstanding Scott's having forgotten about cheese night, which we're going to razz him about tomorrow when he shows up. I'm counting on you, the Greek chorus. We will be back 22 hours and 50 minutes from now. And until then, Genevieve?
We don't have fun anymore, but for right now, we still have conservatorships and red peppers to throw at those who grant them.
Voila.
Good one.
Yeah,
You're
very
so
well
good at
done.
This is why we have